Hello everyone, welcome back to A Better Life, a channel dedicated to sharing knowledge and helping you develop yourself holistically through great books. Maugham once said, "There are two good things in life, freedom of thought and freedom of action." However, although most of us are born into freedom, how many of us actually attain true freedom? Most people are unconsciously wearing invisible shackles, turning the journey of life into a never-ending struggle to liberate themselves. But why, despite all our efforts, have we yet to break free? The main reason lies in three types of chains that every person faces. These are the very shackles we often lack the awareness and courage to break at the right time. If you fail to recognize and release yourself from them in time, you will forever be held back, unable to achieve true freedom and happiness. So, what are these three chains? The classic novel of human bondage will provide you with deeper insights to find the answers for yourself. This is a work by the famous British author William Somerset Maugham. The idea for this novel came to Maugham when he was 23 years old, but it wasn't until he was 37 that he completed the manuscript. Upon its release, the book was praised as a masterpiece and quickly became a classic, translated into many languages. Now, let's listen to a sharing from A Better Life, titled "The Three Chains You Need to Break in Life," based on the novel of Human Bondage by Maugham. Releasing the shackles of insecurity and inferiority about an imperfect self is the first step towards reconciling with yourself. The main character, Philip, lost both his parents at the age of 9 and had to live with his uncle. However, his uncle was conservative and rigid, making Philip's early life full of pressure and boredom. Worse still, Philip was born with a deformity in one leg, causing him to limp. His lonely life and physical imperfection made him very shy, insecure, and sensitive. At school, Philip was often mocked by his classmates. Some of them deliberately forced him to take off his shoe so they could see his foot more clearly. Others mimicked his walk, and some even kicked his leg on purpose. Philip tried hard to fit in, wanting to live like everyone else, but the more he tried, the more he was ridiculed. The immense psychological pressure caused his academic performance to decline, and even his teachers were harsh, calling him the lame fool. When he reached high school, Philip still couldn't escape the taunts and insults from his peers. Gradually, he became mentally scarred, increasingly insecure, and more withdrawn. His physical imperfection became a thorn in his heart. Even as an adult, just hearing the words lame would cause him to tense up, blush, and tremble with anger and resentment toward his own body. When looking for a job, Philip faced many challenges due to his limp. In love, he was insecure, thinking that no woman would ever accept him. Years later, Philip grew up and became a doctor. One day, he encountered a young patient, a boy with a similar leg deformity. Seeing the boy reminded Philip of his own childhood, and he was very careful in his interactions with him. But the boy simply smiled and said, "It just doesn't look very nice, that's all," showing that it didn't affect his life much. This simple, carefree remark hit Philip like a ton of bricks. Exactly. Why do we place so much importance on what society considers beautiful or perfect? It's because we have always craved these things. But the more you crave beauty and perfection to be accepted by the masses, the more the words, looks, and actions of others can affect your psyche. The more you're affected, the more insecure you become, and the more you yearn for perfection. This is a vicious cycle. You end up trapped in an invisible prison, shackled by the chains of your own insecurity. Here we see that the author uses Philip's physical disability to reveal a truth we all need to face. Each of us has imperfections, if not physical, then mental. All of us, to some extent, feel inferior about something. If not one thing, then another. We may feel insecure about our appearance, being too fat or too thin, too tall or too short. My teeth aren't straight. My face isn't pretty. We feel inferior because of poor academic performance, because our job isn't as prestigious as others, because our education isn't as high, because of congenital disabilities, or even because of our family background. So all the way around, all of us feel insecure because of an imperfect self. When faced with insecurity, people typically respond in one of two major ways: avoidance or defensiveness. Those who avoid will withdraw and try to escape any situation that may cause them to feel insecure or uncomfortable. They limit their participation in social activities, public events, or even meeting friends. This is a form of self-isolation, which stunts personal growth and sometimes leads to procrastination and indecision. The truth is, the more you isolate yourself, the stronger your desire to fit in and be like everyone else becomes. And the more you crave it, the more insecure you feel. So, they can never free themselves from the shackles of self-doubt. Defensive people, on the other hand, react by trying to protect themselves from feelings of hurt, criticism, or judgment by constantly seeking validation and approval from others. For example, they might deliberately expose their flaws to subtly seek affirmation. This is called self-deprecating behavior. When someone often says, "I've gotten so fat lately," or "I'm too short, I don't look good in this outfit," what they really want to hear is, "No, you're not fat," or "You look great in that outfit." But such reassurances provide only temporary comfort, leaving behind lingering insecurity. Deep down, they know these are just comforting lies, but even knowing that, they continue to deny themselves. It's like an internal play that only brings more suffering. If someone continues to dwell on their pain and stubbornly exhaust themselves, they will never escape the shackles of life. The only way to break free from these chains is to stop comparing yourself to others, stop focusing on your flaws and shortcomings, and stop thinking that being imperfect is a terrible thing. Life is a process of continually shedding shackles, but sometimes awareness only takes a single thought. Like Philip, after changing his mindset, he suddenly realized that although fate gave him a flawed body, it also gifted him with something unique. The books he had read, the roads he had traveled, and the pains he had endured made him understand that although his disability made life harder, it also gave him the ability to self-reflect and appreciate the beauty of art and life. From that moment on, Philip peacefully accepted his imperfect self, finally freeing himself from the chains of insecurity and inferiority. He reconciled with and saved himself. There's a saying that goes, "A flower is most beautiful before it fully blooms, and the moon is most lovely before it's completely full." Because if all the flowers bloomed at once, they would inevitably wither. If the moon is perfectly round one night, it will surely start to wane the next. Nothing in this world is perfect, but it is precisely this imperfection that makes you unique in your own way. If we keep looking at others through the lens of comparison, thinking that they are more perfect than us, we will focus entirely on our own flaws when we turn back to ourselves. As a result, it becomes difficult to recognize our strengths and unleash our true potential. Only when you willingly let go of the shackles of insecurity can you begin to focus on yourself. Change what you can in a positive, natural way, without comparisons or envy. For what cannot be changed, accept it. At that point, the opinions and judgments of others will no longer matter to you, and only then will you truly touch freedom. Like Philip, he was finally able to walk calmly and freely on his own imperfect legs. Every change, every charm, and every beauty in life is made up of both light and shadow. When you learn to accept life's imperfections, you'll gain the strength to step out of the darkness and discover your true value. Shedding the shackles of misguided persistence will help you see the right path. What career should I choose? This is a question that everyone must face on their life journey. Philip was no different. His uncle wanted him to follow in his footsteps and become a pastor, while his aunt wanted him to follow his late father's path and become a doctor. Although Philip didn't know what he wanted to do, he rejected his uncle and aunt's plans because he despised both professions. Through a family friend's recommendation, Philip started working as a clerk in an accounting office. But soon, the tedious tasks and the endless adding and subtracting of numbers made him despise the job. Philip had always had a special passion for drawing since childhood. His friends admired his paintings and believed he had artistic talent. This encouraged him to nurture his dream of becoming a painter. He convinced his aunt to support him financially, and then, filled with hope, moved to Paris to study art. At first, Philip felt like he had found his true companions. Every day, people passionately painted, drank coffee, and eagerly discussed art and life. That was until he met a girl named Price. Everything slowly began to change. Price was a hard-working girl who diligently practiced painting, but after some time, her art teacher noticed that she lacked talent. He frankly advised her to find something more suited to her abilities. However, Price did not believe her teacher's words and held on to the belief that persistence alone would lead to success. The result? None of her paintings sold, and her poverty worsened. In the end, she fell into despair and tragically ended her own life in a shabby rented room. Price's story had a profound impact on Philip, and for the first time he began to doubt his own choices. He couldn't help but ask his teacher whether he had any talent for painting. Instead of answering directly, the teacher shared a story with Philip, a story from another famous novel by Maugham, The Moon and Sixpence. The story was about a stockbroker who had a stable career, a wealthy and happy family. But one day, he suddenly gave it all up to move to Paris and pursue his dream of becoming an artist. He said, "I feel like I'm drowning, and only painting can save me." Fueled by endless passion, he ultimately achieved his goal, becoming an artist and finding his own happiness. After hearing the story, Philip realized that true artists not only needed talent, but also an overwhelming passion for what they do. Is there a fine line between persistence and stubbornness? In fact, this line is not as thin as we think. It only becomes blurred when you are unclear about yourself. This requires us to learn how to observe and understand ourselves from the inside out and answer some crucial questions. What do you love doing? Are you good at it? Do you feel joy and happiness while doing it? Are you willing to face all the difficulties that come with it? Have you thought about what you gain or lose by choosing to continue? Are you only doing it for some material purpose, like earning a lot of money or gaining fame and high status? Do you feel a strong passion that drives you forward, no matter the obstacles? Do you have enough motivation so that no one and nothing can stop you from moving ahead? If you meet all these conditions, then persevere until the end with your choice, like Van Gogh, like Strickland from The Moon and Sixpence, or like Santiago, the young shepherd in The Alchemist. But if not, then be like Philip in this novel. Take a step back and reflect. Philip realized that he did not have an intense passion for painting. After much thought, he decided to give it up and switch to studying medicine in London. Because this decision was made after careful consideration, Philip worked diligently throughout his studies. Thanks to his relentless efforts, he eventually earned his medical degree. In the process of healing and saving lives, Philip began to feel a deeper sense of self-worth, growing more confident and stronger. He finally realized that being a doctor was truly the right career for him. There's a saying, persevering in a mistake isn't bravery, it's foolish stubbornness. On the journey of survival and finding one's purpose, Philip was able to discover a field in which he truly excelled and felt passionate, thanks to his self-awareness and courage to stop at the right time. He broke free from the chains of mistaken persistence. Philip's character is like that, and so is our life. If you know deep down that you don't have the ability to succeed in a certain job, yet stubbornly pursue it, you will ultimately achieve nothing. Only when you can let go of this stubbornness will you be able to see a clearer path ahead, do what you're truly good at, and find your true self deep within your soul. Breaking free from the chains of a mistaken relationship allows you to begin loving yourself and live freely. During his time studying painting in Paris, Philip fell in love with a waitress named Mildred. She had an average face and a pale complexion, which made her look frail, but Philip was passionately infatuated with her. Over time, Philip realized that Mildred had shallow thoughts, a harsh and practical personality. She was greedy, vain, deceitful, and lacked virtue. Every time they went on a date, she would shop compulsively, and despite his financial difficulties, Philip was willing to spend all his money on her. The two were on completely different wavelengths and had little to talk about. To avoid boring her, Philip always tried to start conversations and make her happy. Moreover, Mildred was unfaithful, involving herself with many other men. Even when faced with her betrayal and disrespect, Philip found it hard to let go of his feelings for her. When she became pregnant by another man and was abandoned, she came back to Philip. He harbored no resentment and was willing to stay by her side and raise the child, with his love burning even more intensely. He knew it was like waiting for a ship at an airport. futile. Even though she didn't love him, Philip continued trying to find some non-existent affection from her. He despised himself for loving so endlessly, lowering himself to the point where the relationship became painfully unbalanced, yet he couldn't walk away. At times, he thought he wasn't good enough for her and was willing to do anything to win her love. He believed that his sincerity would eventually be rewarded with true love. But what did he get in return? Only the yearning of lust, blind stubbornness, and repeated deceit and humiliation. Later, blinded by materialism, Mildred became a prostitute and contracted a venereal disease, eventually disappearing from Philip's life. Philip, now penniless, was forced to wander the streets. This misguided love had cost him deeply, leaving him in immense pain. As time passed, Philip reflected on his experience and realized that he wasn't truly in love with a person, but rather with his own ego, desires, and stubbornness. As mentioned in the book The Road Less Traveled, all emotional stirrings driven by biological impulses, love based on possession, or emotional dependence are not real love. Philip's love was intense but blind, driven by his craving to be loved. It was like a chain that imprisoned his soul. Maugham wrote in the novel that this love was truly tormenting. He hated himself for allowing his desires to consume him, as if he had become a prisoner, desperately yearning for freedom. Later, when Philip encountered Mildred again, he was still willing to help her, but only out of kindness. He also met someone who truly understood him, and the two eventually married, sharing a mutual love. Only when Philip let go of his attachment and freed himself from the chains of lust in that mistaken relationship did he finally feel at ease and free. True love is about compassion and empathy, giving each other freedom, growing together, and becoming the best versions of yourselves. On the other hand, love rooted in lust, possession, or dependence only leads to self-destruction and erodes your sense of self. Recognizing and breaking free from this chain of mistaken love is the only way we can walk in freedom and learn to truly love ourselves and others. As a famous saying goes, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Life is full of ups and downs. Each person carries their own regrets and imperfections, walking alone. It could be a physical flaw, an inner imperfection, struggles in your career, or emotional pain. Life's disappointments often take up a significant part of our journey. When you find yourself in such a difficult and unclear situation, try to find peace within and read this book. Perhaps you will find the courage to change your fate. Through his ups and downs, Philip teaches us that only by breaking free from the chains of self-doubt and insecurity about your imperfections can you fully reconcile with your inner self. Only by stepping out of the shadow of insecurity can you transform your self-doubt into transcendence. Only by breaking free from the chains of mistaken perseverance in your work can you find your passion and discover your true worth. Only by breaking free from the chains of mistaken love can you finally live a fulfilling life and grow within a balanced relationship. And once you break free from those chains, you can begin to truly love yourself, know how to love others, and live a life of freedom. Your destiny can change with a single thought. So, have you truly decided to break free from the chains of your life and find yourself? Or are you still clinging to the attachments that imprison you? Let go of those attachments, and everything will be set free. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch the latest videos. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.